What's up guys, if you clicked on this video then you want to know how to finally embrace the fantasy of becoming a dragon and even one-shot some of the bosses in Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. While many spells and incantations have already existed in the game previously, the DLC has provided some new items that will allow us to maximize some of the more niche builds like this one and elevate it to a very serious contender for one of the best builds in the entire game. So without any further delay, let's get right on into it. This build will be taking advantage of a new item released with Shadow of the Erdtree known as the Rock Heart. It will give your character a new really cool looking dragon form and will also boost any dragon communion incantations that you activate while in said form. The only downside is that you have to take off any equipped armor in order to activate it, which can leave you slightly vulnerable, especially when it comes to some of the harder bosses. But as I will mention later in the video, there are also many things that can be used in order to alleviate this. Getting into the build, the weapon that you have equipped in your right hand really doesn't matter. I recommend having something that you're comfortable with, as you'll primarily be using it to just finish off any enemies or do some cleanup on some smaller adds. I really like the Sword of Night because it's a super fast katana that also has a really cool weapon art and is quite frankly aesthetically pleasing to the rest of the character look. In your left hand you want to have the Dragon Communion seal and obviously upgrade it all the way. This will boost any Dragon Communion incantations that you use, which synergizes with the Rock Heart. Obviously there's no armor with this build as I stated earlier because you can only equip the Rock Heart if you have nothing else on. Moving on to the talismans, we have the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman. All this does is boost physical damage negation. Being that you have no armor on, this is something that I highly recommend, as you're essentially a glass cannon and can get hit pretty hard if you're not watching out and being careful. Next we have the Flock Canvas Talisman, which greatly raises the potency of any incantations that you cast, followed by the Blue Dancer Charm, which raises attack power when your equipment load is less. This synergizes with the fact that, well, you have no armor on, so you might as well take advantage of the increased attack power because of it. And lastly, the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, as this will increase your attack power with successive attacks, because as you'll see in the gameplay, you pretty much just want to continuously spam your Dragon Communion incantations. For your Flask of Wondrous Physic, I highly recommend using the Stone Barb Crack tier, as this will make breaking the stance of enemies a little bit easier, as well as the Cerulean Hidden tier, as it temporarily eliminates all FP consumption, meaning that you can get at least 1 to 3 attacks in without using any FP. Now naturally we have the Flame Grant Me Strength and Golden Vow buffs as they increase attack power and defense accordingly. They're also very useful in pretty much any build in the game. As far as the incantations that you actually want to take advantage of, I highly recommend the Dragon Maw and the Dragon Claw. Dragon Maw in particular because it actually does some of the highest damage of any other dragon attack, at least in one go. It also has an insane amount of attack power and can stagger enemies quite easily. So as far as gameplay goes, you essentially want to pop your Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength if necessary. If you're cleaning up smaller enemies, it's not a big deal, but for the bosses, you want to pop those two. And then essentially just spam Dragon Maw, and then in the case of a stagger, you can follow it up with whatever weapon you have equipped, and then just continue attacking with the Dragon Maw until the enemy is dead. All of the gameplay in this video is from a New Game Plus 1 run, and I'm only around level 200, so as you can see this build is quite powerful, and I highly recommend using it. It's a lot of fun, it's unique, and it's a cool way to spice up the gameplay a little bit. That's all there really is to it. The rest of the gameplay is just going to be me shredding through some of the enemies both late game and early game. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, hopefully this was helpful, and thank you so much for watching.